What's going on, guys? As promised, I'm going to walk you through every single step of due diligence on this 16-unit apartment complex that we just got under contract. And we're going to go through all of the steps and show you how to do it. So if you get a property under contract, you know exactly what to do. That being said, let's jump into it. All right, guys, first step of due diligence is you're going to have to send off a message or an email to the seller or the seller's agent of all the information that you need. You're also going to have to schedule an inspection. So that involves finding a good inspector. We're going to talk about the different kinds of inspectors you need through this process, but I'm going to give you the, prompt or script that I use when sending this. And you could use this on properties as small as a 2 or 4 unit apartment complex. Just know it'll stress out the owners and there's a good chance they won't have a lot of it. You have to determine what you need, and I would use Chat or Claude to figure out how important it is. But asking them for this does two things. One, it gets them invested that you know what you're doing. Well, so it does a couple more than two things. It does that. It also is going to be intimidating. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be stressful for most owners to have to come up with this. That's going to incentivize them to not want to do it again or not want to go through this process again. And then it's going to give you everything you need so that in due diligence, you don't end up getting caught with your pants down in a tricky situation because you overlook something. So this is the message. I'm going to read it quickly, but I'm also going to give it to you here. It says, thanks. As we begin due diligence, could you please send over the following: current rent rolls, copies of leases and amendments, renewals and addendums, security deposit ledger, trailing 12-month P&L and the last 3 years of financials if available, the last 12 months of utility bills, sewer, gas, electric, trash, etc., property tax bills, current insurance declarations page and recent claims loss, a list of capital improvements with dates. And I'm going to put the rest of these up here because I just realized this is a really long list. So we're going to put them here, here and here. If you want to screenshot this page, then you can see exactly what I asked for. And all of this stuff we're then going to go through and make sure that there aren't any red flags in any of it. All right, guys, the reason I wanted to come back here is there are lots of tenants that have their doors open and are just very curious. I mean, first of all, it's probably intimidating to have us going and doing walkthrough inspections of each of the units. It's intimidating to know that they're selling, but then to see someone walking around with a big camera getup, it's not doing us any favors. So we're gonna come back here to talk through a couple more of the details. Now, with a property like this, it's an older property, so I wanna get an inspector that knows what they're doing, that is going to do a full inspection. Now, this is just the beginning of this, and this is why we asked for a 15-day due diligence period. I need to work through all of the financials, and there are a couple things I want to do. One, I want to make sure there are no red flags on expenses that are way higher than they should be, income that's way lower than it should be, any weird leases where people have some discount forever, or where there's anything else hairy or fishy or weird going on, any, current evictions, consistent vacancies, struggles with the property. I just want to know everything on the financial side. That's why we ask for all of that documentation and information. I also want to make sure that there's nothing weird with property lines or easements or anything else that's going to cause us issues. I don't think that's the case, but it's always good to dive into it and just make sure we're comfortable with everything. Now, that's outside of the inspection. When it comes to the inspection, I want a phenomenal inspector that is going to catch anything and everything. Now, an inspector, a lot of times they know a lot, but there are lots of niche things that they don't know. For example, I had the inspector out. He already hopped on the roof and he said, Chandler, I see some things that might potentially be problematic on the roof. Here are the things that I've taken pictures of. I suggest getting a actual roofer that works with this flat roof that can come and give you a bid on those things and let you know if they see anything else problematic. So that then I can get a number tied to the issue and also know, hey, how problematic is this going to be? How much life does it have, etc. The other thing, I'm going to call someone in to check all of the drain lines out. So those are 2 additional people that I have to get out to the building to come and check on it. That's all that we've found so far, and we haven't even gone into any of the units yet. And so once we get inside the unit, we might run into electrical issues. We might run into plumbing issues. We're going to for sure run into flooring, paint, fixtures, cabinets, things like that we know are going to be or needing to be rehabbed or fixed. We're going to then bring in my lead that does a lot of the construction for me, and we're going to get bids on that. In other situations, we might have siding bids that we need to get, window bids, all of those things. Now, what I've come to find is once you finish your due diligence and you go to them and you can ask and say, hey, I want you to either repair or pay me this amount so that I can repair. these things. And we're going to talk about that strategy after due diligence is over. And I'm going to dive into that more in a future video on how I go about that. But it's so important to get anything and everything that you can. So one, you know what you're signing up for. You know if the amount that you're paying for it aligns with your expenses. And if it doesn't, you then go to the seller and say, these are things that we didn't know about and they need to be made right, whether you're going to fix them or you're going to pay us to fix them by giving us money at closing. Now, that second one is preferred by me and usually preferred by the seller because some of these things can be milked a little bit longer. That's less money I need to bring to the closing table, more things that I could potentially funnel into monthly expenses after we get rental income coming in. And for them, they can get the deal closed more quickly and they don't have to deal with figuring out subs and figuring out how to fix things. All right, guys, I'm gonna walk you through what I'm looking for in units because I personally wanna walk each of the units. I also am going to talk briefly about what the inspector is going to look for and how I'm gonna use his report. So we'll talk about that at the end. I also called in some special help because one thing that's really important for me when walking the units is I wanna be on the same page with my property manager. Here's my introduction to Luke. Say hello, Luke.
Hello.
So Luke, you've been managing properties for how many years now?
I mean, I bought my own 20-ish years ago, but like took it up and ramped it up to a serious level probably 10 to 15 years ago.
Sweet, cool. So we're gonna walk through and a couple things that I'm leaning on Luke for. One, I wanna know low end, mid-range, and high end, what we are gonna be able to rent this for and make sure that it works out. Now, obviously I'm in units all the time. I have lots of units here. I still wanna lean on Luke because it's his job to follow through and make sure it happens, that we actually get the rents that are promised. So for this unit, Luke, what is my worst case scenario, where we're hoping to be, and our best case?
Worst case, I think it could rent $850 all day long. Right now, rents are a little soft, but we're still in a good time of year to get maximum rent. So I think best case scenario for a unit like this, where it's been updated with some new flooring and new paint, $1,000 probably on the high end. Middle range is going to be $950 all day long, and the closer to fall, wintertime we get, obviously things get a lot softer. So ideally, get this thing rented in the next few weeks, and I think we'll be money.
Perfect. Now, here's the thing that I love about Luke. It's not an overpromise. If you watched my last video, I was hoping maybe on some of these units we could get lucky, fill them for $1,050, maybe even $1,100. But I told you my worst case scenario is $1,000. So when we're looking at that, Luke, is it with this unit? First of all, the reason I bring that up is Luke is not going to overpromise. He also hopefully will overdeliver. But with a unit like this, how would you go about listing it, and how long are we waiting at $1,000? And is it worth listing above $1,000? And what downsides come if we take that route?
So with rental properties, as opposed to real estate, you can always start rental properties high, and then you can rapidly reduce after a week or two if you're not getting any inquiries. And so I think on this, even though I think 1,000's a high end, we do want to test the market where it's the only empty unit in the building to see what we can accomplish in here. It wouldn't hurt to start at 1,100 and then just work our way down pretty rapidly and try to get rented out in 2 to 3 weeks.
Perfect. Now, for the cleanliness of this project, we've kind of run the numbers in the previous. I think we were looking at 11 to 12% cash on cash return with a cash flow that strong. And this is something you've got to ask yourself. When he tells me worst case scenario, we can fill it all day at $850. I think it's a very easy, quick. I mean, we put this unit on for $850. It's gone same day, I would assume. And that's still going to be cash flow positive, which puts me at ease in a big way on properties like this. And for me, I'm going to tell Luke, hey, I think I feel comfortable holding a little while. Let's not drop below $1,000 until it's been on market for a month or so, because I really want to get that if we can. But when it gets more than a month, I mean, at the end of the month, we want to fill that at $950 or even $900, because a whole month without it filled, you've lost any benefit you've gotten on that year lease. And we can always bump after a year if the market isn't as soft, or even if it is, because a lot of times it's easier to retain people and do $25 to $50 bumps. So let's dive into what we're going to be looking for. Now, for me, I'm not getting as nitpicky. I still like to check the quality of the units. So I'm going to come through, first going to make sure that they can rent for what I think. I'm going to be looking at additional expenses that I need to get a contractor in here. That means flooring, that means paint, that means fixtures, that means cabinets, countertops. I'm gonna come and maybe mess around, but I don't worry as much at checking sinks, drainage, all of that, the electrical. all of that I'm paying an inspector to do. And so you could still walk, you can still mess around. Luke might mess around with some of that stuff, but for me, it's lower priority. I'm looking at what our heat is and what our situation is there. I'm looking at our water heaters and the age there and marking that. And then the overall quality and anything else that I think I need to get other contractors in here to bid. Luke, for you, is there anything else you're looking for?
No, main things like that. A unit like this, I like the way it's built. I like the fact that it's electric heat. There's not a furnace that's going to run out or break down and need to be replaced. This can be, thousands of dollars. Water heater's a good one. Appliances, another major expense. But that, roof, windows, just anything like that is what I would be looking for as well.
We want it to be ready to rent, but we also want to find anything we can to beat up the seller on so that we can get a little more wiggle room, because again, with where I want to be at $1,000 to get like I'm stoked cash on cash return, we need to make sure I have zero expenses, so this is a clean turnkey. And if it's not, I need to get money back. And interestingly enough, if I can find things and I can get $50,000 or $100,000 back during due diligence, odds are on a property like this, I'm not going to spend that all at once because all the units are filled. And that can give me some leeway to kind of buffer my cash on cash return as we mess around with rents. And I found that to be really advantageous, where I can beat them up on windows or roof or something that we still have 3, 5, maybe even 7 years left on to kind of hold up our cash on cash return where it needs to be, because we're not spending that immediately. All right, guys, we're gonna walk you through this unit one more time. A couple things that stood out. First of all, I'm gonna steal this. I wanna know how much this costs, because I've spent thousands of dollars this year on nice base, and I don't think this devalues. What do you think? Do you think anybody's gonna rent it for any different if we use rubber base?
No, I mean, there's a certain price range where you would have somebody that might say something about it, but this is a decent unit. It looks decent.
Nice.
It looks nice. And a fraction of the cost of what you do baseboard and paint for.
Yeah, it's massive. So we got to start using that. Brand new water heater. If we find this in every single unit, this is the best deal I've ever bought. I don't think this is gonna be the case. I think they staged this unit for somebody like me to be super excited. So we're gonna have to see what we find in the other units. Unfortunately, I've learned I need to be a little bit more careful. So I might put some overlay video that I get with my phone, but I don't know that we want to take this big camera through on tenants. And I'm only gonna put up recordings that I've asked tenants, hey, is it okay if I take a recording and put it where people can see? Because some people don't want you seeing inside their space while they're living in it, and that's understandable. We've got washer and dryer hookups, which is awesome. We're gonna leave the responsibility to the tenant on the washer and dryer, because it's a pain. They beat the crap out of them. I'm sure Luke does not want to be responsible for that.
One thing I pointed out to you when we were off the camera is a lot of units that are newer and nicer will have microwave, oven, dishwasher, washer, dryer. Those are all appliances that an owner has to maintain. And so the nice thing with this unit is the only appliances that are in here are the fridge and the oven. And so those are the only things that you'd be responsible for. Tenant, supplies their own washer and dryer. They maintain them. No dishwasher, microwave to worry about. So that's a good thing.
Definitely. One thing I'm working on that I want to release, we have a tester right now, is a Capex calculator to determine what the Capex is. Because when you go through, if all your water heaters are end of their life, if the roof's at the end of the life, if appliances are at the end of the life, your Capex is gonna be high. The other thing, I always do a minimum of a 12% on my maintenance of Capex, and then go up from there depending on what we run into, because you have to. And I see so many people analyzing properties without including that. And for those of you that don't know what I mean by Capex, that's looking at all the things that are going to cost you money that you need to plan for now, because they're going to be big, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 expenses that you have to be siphoning off money so that you've got that in reserves when that time comes. Living room, massive. I think this will help us rent it. The bedrooms felt small, but we measured them and they're still like 10 by 11 and a half feet, which is a nice bedroom. They've got nice big closets. Bathroom, Luke, anything of concern in there?
Nothing of concern. Smaller, but still, it's at least a sink that has drawers and some storage, and not a pedestal sink like some properties have.
We were also talking about these cabinets have literally been here since the 70s. I mean, that's 50 years of these cabinets being used. Talk about Capex, right? That's renting to the right tenants. That's very low expense. This, I mean, look at that. That has been here for, what year are we in? We're 2026. And this was built in 73, I think. 50 years, it's nuts. Last thing I want to talk about, and I think I need to make a completely separate video about this because we've used our time, but how to go through the inspection, what to use, how to put together that report when asking for money back. I'm going to dive into all of that on the next video. I did want to make one quick announcement at the end of this one. We're getting down to where we're a little over a month out from the Grand Teton Retreat. This year is going to be the biggest and the best yet. We're already almost half filled, maybe even a little over that now. And so if you're thinking about coming out to Idaho, touring properties, diving into our books and your books, figuring out your plans, where you're at, where you want to be, how to bridge that gap, and hanging out with some phenomenal investors, make sure you click the link down in the description. We'll look forward to seeing you there. And if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, hit the little bell. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.